Peggy is the National Plant Conservation and Restoration Program lead for the BLM, or Bureau of Land Management. Peggy built the BLM's nationally recognized native seed program, which promotes the development and the use of native plants in habitat conservation and restoration projects. She was instrumental in developing the Plant Conservation Alliance in 1994, a partnership of about 15 federal government agencies and over 400 state, tribal, and private organizations. She historically served as chair of the PCA Federal Committee and led the effort on the 2015 National Seed Strategy. Peggy is vice chair of the IUCN-SSC North American Red List Authority. And if anyone has any questions, she can explain that. And co-authored the book of Seeds of Restoration Success, which I have, which is phenomenal. In 2021, Peggy was named a Conservation Trailblazer in the Department of Interior's National Resource Conservation Achievement Awards and received the Hutchinson Medal of the Chicago Horticultural Society. Please welcome Peggy.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here and to connect with all you guys. I've now been here almost 2 years, but a lot of it's been, the host has spotlighted your video. Oh, well, whatever. Sorry. I'm looking at myself now. That's disturbing. Anyhow, so I can't wait till we can get to really meet in person and get to know everybody better in my new home. So I'm going to share my screen so I don't have to look at myself. Hold on. I think this is what I do, but yeah, okay. So what I wanted to do today, and I hope you guys are good with it, is I'm going to give you a bigger, broader picture than just BLM in Idaho, because I think that in giving you that bigger, broader picture, I think you will be able to see where Idaho can fit in on some of this stuff. And I'm really happy to say Idaho Native Plant Society is a member of the 400 or more Plant Conservation Alliance non-federal partners. So it is the Plant Conservation Alliance, all of us federal agencies, and many of the non-federal partners that helped to develop the National Seed Strategy in 2014 is when we developed it and put it into place in 2015. And it sounds, I am not the only person that did this. BLM is not the only agency. It was a collaborative effort that couldn't have been done without the help of a lot of botanists around the country. So I don't want anybody to think that it's just a BLM seed strategy. There has been that kind of thought around, okay, now I'm not being able to, there, okay. So I don't know how many of you have seen this kind of map, but it is climate-induced disasters that are affecting everyone in every state. And this map shows the extreme weather and climate events between 2015 and 2020, which is the 5 years that I'm going to be talking about the seed strategy progress that we've made, because that's the same time frame, 2015 to 2020. In the US alone, since 1980, there have been almost 300 events that each one of those events cost at least $1 billion. And I think all total, they were something like $1.9 trillion in damages. Over the past 20 years, over 150 million acres have burned. And for us to restore these damaged ecosystems to resiliency, we are going to need a significantly more quantity and diversity of native seed that's locally adapted. Enter the National Seed Strategy. And as I said, all of us got together, and it really was under the leadership of Neil Cornsey, who was the director of the BLM at the time under the Obama administration. And he came up to me at some event, I don't even remember where, and said, Peggy, why are people telling me natives don't work? And I said, because they're not really using the right natives. You can't take a plant from Kansas and put it into California and think that you're going to get, even if it's the same species, you can't get that to survive. So he really was interested in in figuring this whole thing out. And so he really helped me pull together the Plant Conservation Alliance and get the federal agency leadership involved in developing and giving the botanist in the federal government the opportunity to work with us on developing this native seed strategy. If you don't have a copy of it, I'm happy to give anybody a copy of it that wants it. We've got plenty of them down at the office. The vision is the right seed in the right place at the right time. And we want to ensure the availability of genetically appropriate seed reserves so that we can restore viable and productive plant communities and sustainable ecosystems. And I'm not going to dwell on that too much. What I want to do here is bring it into the 2022, the Biden administration, and show you why this is so important that we had it and we have it ready to go. So this is going to look really bureaucratic, but I just want you to see how the National Seed Strategy is connected and can answer some of the climate change issues that this administration has as its priorities. So Executive Order 14008, that is the Tackling the Climate Crisis Executive Order that came out in November. And then the newly passed Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I'm sitting in my house one Sunday listening to NPR. And all of a sudden they start talking about the infrastructure law. And they started saying things about what this would help. The last thing that they said was, and seeds. And I'm like, I literally had to jump out of my seat and go, did he just say and seeds, And he did. The National Seed Strategy made it into the infrastructure law. And we have our own section of it. So that's really important because people are really paying attention to it right now. And I have been in meetings now for the past month, maybe, and the Department of Interior on its own has $905 million that has been allocated to it from the infrastructure bill or law. And of that is 905 that's allocated for ecological restoration. And so the seed strategy is in there. And so if you look down here at the bottom of the screen, this is the bipartisan infrastructure activities, and there's 10 different activities. And the seed strategy really can go through many of the different activities, but the one that's particularly been outlined for the seed strategy and where we were mentioned was activity 9, where it was talking about the national revegetation and including implementing the national seed strategy. But when we've been in these meetings for the past month, there's lots of opportunity for us to cross over these different activities. And really, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, our seed strategy, we do seed contracts, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, for seed collection. We've got a contract for seed production. We obviously, the invasive species treatments are not going to be effective if they don't have the right seed to go in afterwards. We know that the BLM and some of the other federal agencies have been heavily utilized since COVID-19. And so we need to get back in there and rebuild these recreational and camping areas. Obviously, mine land re-veg, they're going to need some good seed for that. And then, like I said, the one that specifically addresses the national seed strategy implementation, and that activity, these activities all have different amount of monies attached to them. And I'm not going to get into that. It's very bureaucratic. And whether it can be on private land or public land, or whether it's tribal, federal agency or state agencies. But I would suffice it to say that if folks need funding for things right now, and I'm not saying it's ready, because it is not ready. We are still having preliminary meetings, but this may be the place that we can get some of the good research that we need to have done and on the ground restoration that we need to have done to get funded. So like I said, the administration's priorities are being addressed through this. So I want to go to the next one. And this is once we hit 2020 and we had developed the seed strategy for a 5-year period of time, we also developed a business plan to go along with that. And this, we went and put a request out to the federal agencies and said, okay, what have you done to implement the seed strategy in the 5 years? And this is what came back to us. And it's a subset of what's happened, but it's very encouraging. There were 17 federal agencies that responded, 20 tribal nations that were engaged in implementing the seed strategy. In 52 states and territories, there were over 380 total partners for a total of $167 million that was invested. And what I put that inside the circle of the native plant materials development process that really goes from collection, native seed collection. And we do it through our Seeds of Success program. And I see that Anna's on there. Anna Lindquist is our national curator. So we wanted to highlight all of the parts of this process that really take you from the wildland seed collection through evaluation and development, field establishment, production with the growers, buying it, storing it, and then getting it out there on the landscape for the right seed in the right place at the right time. And so you can sort of see, we also have, I don't know, did we send links in for you guys? Because this is online and we can get links. I think we gave you links. Hopefully we did. And if we didn't, we'll put them in the chat. This is all in a publication that's the Seed Strategy Progress Report. And it was really serendipitous, but also we pushed to get this progress report out there before all of the things that were happening with the infrastructure bill and with the executive order, and getting folks' attention to what has been happening. And what you can see on this map here is that it's been happening. These projects address a wide range of conservation and restoration needs. You can see what along the side here, from wildlife habitat and corridors, wildfire rehab, invasive species, rare or endangered plants and animals, mining, reclamation. Those were sort of the top 5. But what this shows is that every state, even territories, we have American Samoa, Puerto Rico, Hawaii and Alaska are a little bit over to the right, which is not the usual place where it happens. But what I want to showcase here is what went on as part of this in Idaho. So this is what we got back from all of the federal agencies that were surveyed in terms of implementing the seed strategy in Idaho. There were a total of 91 projects that were implementing this across a wide range of conservation restoration issues. The 5 most common projects that were happening were native seed collection through our Seeds of Success program, wildlife habitat and wildlife corridor work, climate change related projects, scientific research or data collection, and then plant materials production, where we were actually, spending money to produce the seed that we could then buy back. And as you can see here, there's active restoration, invasive species mitigation, lots of various projects. But seed collection was the largest in terms of what people reported back to us. So I thought Idaho was represented well on this. So thank you all, because I'm sure you're working on various things. I wanted to give you an idea of the 20 years of Seeds of Success and what we've done through the years with this collection program. Totally, we've collected over 26,000 native seed collections from 43 states and 93 ecoregions. And I'm just going to let that sort of go. You can sort of see how a lot of the collections are happening in Idaho. Thank you, Anna Halford, and others that have been engaged in that. And you'll see there's a big gaping hole down there in the southeast. That's where those 7 states are that we did not have any collections from. And BLM and Fish and Wildlife Services partnered together with the Southeastern Grasslands Initiative, and they have started this SOS Southeast. So we're very excited about that. I talked a little bit about contracts, and I don't want to get into too much of it, but one of the things that we were finding, and this was across the board, is that in the East and in the West, that we do not have the commercial availability of very many locally adapted native seed. We have cultivars, sometimes they're from a single source. We have lots of non-natives that people are very willing to use. And they have their purpose in some places. I can't say that they don't, but we didn't have the availability, the readily available material. And so when we would have these wildfires, and then our biologists would come in and say, okay, well, this is what we should get. And they would list them all off, and then they'd go to the seed warehouse to get them, to buy them, purchase them for the project. It wasn't available. So I don't know, it took me 20 years to figure this one out, not 20, but pretty close. We needed to do something that took the risk away from the growers. And this Anna Halford helped with tremendously. She's been our staunch stalwart to use it and to develop it with our seed warehouse as well as the others. What we did with this is we're looking at 70 forbs, 41 grasses from across the country, or across the west, and I think there was something like 35 seed transfer zones in it. And what took me 20 years to figure out was how to do it using our working capital fund so that we could develop this contract, be taking the risk for the private sector, but then having funds go in to pay the vendors to develop the materials, and then our project dollars would pay back. They would buy them. So if it was a fire, the fire folks would be paying for the seed from the seed warehouse. So we're seeding the seed warehouse, and it's working. It's working very well, but we have only just begun, which is why the infrastructure funds that are now coming available to us through the bipartisan infrastructure law are so important. We started this in 2018, and we started with 3 species, and now we have gone up to 55 species. We've ordered over 101,000 pounds from 62 seed transfer zones, and we've spent about $6.3 million. We've raised about, I think it's like $13.7 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but it's not, because what happens with this, I was hoping we would get a circulating account, but what happens is that this money, this $6.3 million is tied up for 5 years. It can take that long to get the delivery order out there, the purchase requisition, a bid from the growers comes back, then they have to, grow the materials. So it can take 3 years, 4 years. We have just gotten back, I think, 3,000 to 4,000 pounds from our 2018 delivery orders. So we're very excited about that, but it takes a lot of time, which is what I'm trying to talk to the folks about within the infrastructure law, because I would love it if we had a working capital fund of 25 to $50 million that just is recycling the money, because we've got so many different species we want to work on in so many different seed transfer zones. The other thing that we've got going through the National Seed Strategy is that we have a study underway with the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Math, and they have got a study group working on an assessment of native seed needs and capacities. This is the interim report here. We're anticipating that the final report will come to us. I think it's going to be sometime in February or March, actually. It's not this month. I'm hoping that we'll get it by next month. And that should be really instrumental in us being able to use the recommendations from that with the infrastructure funding, because what the way these things usually work is the National Academy of Science, we paid for the study, they give us the study and they give it to Congress with recommendations for what we need to do from their findings. And it's headed by Dr. Susan Harrison from UC Davis is the head of the study group. And there's many really, really great scientists, statisticians, economists that are on this group. So I'm really waiting with anticipation for us to get that. So I thought it would be helpful for you guys, because I think it will be helpful for those of us that are working in the federal agencies to understand some of the push that we're getting in congressional language for BLM and the Department of Interior that's focusing on plant conservation and restoration program. It's focusing on the National Seed Strategy, and it's focusing on botanical expertise. And, I've worked, oh God, I didn't want to tell you how long I've worked, but I've worked for a long time within 3 different federal agencies of the Department of Interior. I've never seen this kind of language as emphatic and as directive as it is now. And I'm very excited, and I think so are some of our other federal land managing agencies that are in the Department of Interior, because one of the things that they are doing, well, they're giving support to the plant conservation and restoration program. That's great. The committee expects the Bureau to lead the interagency native plant materials development program, the Seeds of Success program, Plant Conservation Alliance. Well, I don't lead the Plant Conservation Alliance. I stepped down from the federal committee chair probably 3 years ago, and Dr. Patricia DeAngelis from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is now the lead, but I guess these guys haven't kept up with us. Anyhow, we have several regional native plant materials development programs. We've got one in the Great Basin. We've got one in the Colorado Plateau, and then one in the Mojave. And I'm anticipating that we will be starting some in the Sonoran and Chihuahuan deserts here, hopefully with this funding, but we'll see. Anyhow, I mean, this is important language because I've never seen it. You know, the committee also continues to support the implementation of the National Seed Strategy. So this is the kind of thing that was in our fiscal year 21 budget, and continues the National Seed Strategy. So not only are they pointing out the Plant Conservation Restoration Program, they're also pointing out that they want to ensure both the program and the seed strategy is funded and operated consistent with prior years. Okay, so that's also very good news, because it not only strengthens our ability with the infrastructure law, with the executive order. The seed strategy is also in the Department of Interior's climate action plan, which was something that everyone had to develop. Not everyone, sorry. Every department had to develop a climate action plan. So just so you know, it's in there. This is the one that I find the most exciting, and that maybe you guys would find the most exciting. The committee is concerned by the need to incorporate the perspective and knowledge of botanists in land management and restoration decision-making. Accordingly, the committee encourages the Secretary of Interior to establish a chief botanist in each of the Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, and U.S. Geological Survey. That is exciting. The money that I get for plant conservation comes through the wildlife shop. And while that's fine, we need to have a really strong botanical expertise within all of our agencies. It is the native plant communities that are the foundation, along with the soil, and maybe the lichens, that are the foundation of the public lands. So I'm very excited about that. I want you guys, if any of you know young botanists that want to get jobs, we're going to be looking for them in our agencies and to assist us. I want to just show you this because I think it's indicative of the direction that we're going to be going, and that is, this is the funding from back in 2001 when Congress told BLM that we needed to develop a native seed program, because we had someone up in Congress noticed that when all of these fires were happening back in 1999 and 2000, that we were buying a lot of non-natives to go out and do restoration after wildfires. And someone was smart enough to say, okay, you guys need to do this, and you need to develop this native seed program. So it was from the direction of Congress that we started this program. And then I just wanted to highlight this bipartisan infrastructure law that attributes $200 million shall be made available to establish and implement a national re-veg effort on federal and non-federal land, including to implement the National Seed Strategy for Rehab and Restoration, of which 70 million shall be made available to the Secretary of Interior and 130 shall be made available to the Secretary of Ag. And what I want to say about this is that we are working together to develop a collaborative, coordinated, strategic effort. If I could take my be queen for the day, I would say that I want a national interagency seed and restoration center that would have a state-of-the-art seed warehouse associated with it. It would have a restoration cadre, well, many restoration cadres that could act as folks to go out and work with the field offices. And it doesn't matter whether you're in BLM, Park Service, or, you know, Forest Service. And we are committed. The department is committed to be working together. The Secretary of Ag is committed to be working together with us. And we are really in the preliminary stages, but I think we finally have got some people listening and hearing us, because we've been talking for a long time. I think the PCA started back in 1994. So however many years that is, we've been trying to focus on plant conservation. And frankly, this is really the first thing that I've seen get the traction that it's got, which is the traction that we need. So I want to make I want to plead with you folks that are botanists, or that know young botanists, that we need all the help we can get to implement the seed strategy. And we welcome your ideas and thoughts and working with us. The plant conservation, you guys are, Idaho Native Plant Society is a member or a coordinator, or, oh God, what do we call it? Cooperator with us in the Plant Conservation Alliance. And we want your participation. And I think I'll take any questions.